guys, I am Dana Giacovello, your host of La Bella Vita and founder of Bullies Keep Out. And today we are here with Sean Cameron Michael, actor and new Bullies Keep Out advocate. And we're going to discuss bullying and some other interesting topics. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here.
Thanks, Dana. It's good to be chatting to you.
Great. So let's start out with a basic question that I like to ask everybody. Why is bullying a cause that you feel it's important to advocate for?
I think that there are people around the world. I think everybody's has been affected by bullying. Sometimes people, don't want to admit that. But I mean, throughout my entire life, whether it be as a kid in school, whether it be in the army, the South African National Defence Force for 2 years, as an actor in adult life. I think as a society, we've become so numb to what's really going on around us. And, we see violence on TV, we see violence in movies. It's all around us. And as a society, we've just become numb. We tend to put our headphones on, listen to music and just numb out what's happening in the world. And I think it's time that we actually opened our eyes, opened our ears, and started listening, started seeing what's really, really going on, seeing that people are hurting. And so that's why I think it's important.
Yeah, it really has become an epidemic, both online and offline. Now that we have social media, there's a new way to bully rather than the old-fashioned way in the playgrounds and, out, by our homes. And, what people also, I think, also fail to see is that it can happen from anybody. It's not just by our peers. It happens within relationships for adults and by parents and siblings. Bullying doesn't have limitation on age or restrictions on who does it. And there's different names for things, but it all comes back to bullying in some form or hate. Have you personally ever dealt with bullying on or offline in any part of your life at all?
As I mentioned earlier, I mean, I was sort of lucky, when I was growing up as a kid. My mom was a dancer and my dad was a singer, and I was very much sort of brought up in this household of acting and singing and dance and all that. And so when I was in school, I mean, I was in the choir, I was in the drama club, and it was so crazy. I mean, I immediately sort of got the nickname of like La-di-da. I was called La-di-da. Sean was now called La-di-da because I was an actor or I was a singer, and that wasn't so I wasn't really one of the cool kids. So in that sense, yes, either I was being called gay, or I was being called la-di-da, or I was being called names because I wasn't playing rugby, or I wasn't playing cricket. I was into the arts. That's all that I knew. So pretty much throughout my school life, there was that, and obviously, I mean, I don't believe any kid can tell you that they are not bullied in school. Whether it's because they're black or they're white or they're Indian or they're straight or they're gay or they're fat or they're tall or they're thin or they've got crooked teeth or they've got big eyes. It's really, every kid is being bullied in school. And yeah, it's, for me, it's also a lot more sort of serious in the sense that even in, as I mentioned earlier, in 2 years, in South Africa, we had compulsory national service. And, bullying, isn't, it's not something, that's just sort of subtle or small or somebody, making fun of. It can actually really be something quite serious as well. In the army, as white South Africans, we were trained psychologically trained, to hate black people, to be racist. That was, the years of apartheid in South Africa.
Right.
And yes, thank God for, Nelson Mandela, and thank God for, the transformations that our country has gone through. But still, yes, South Africa is now this, rainbow nation, and we are living in a very sort of a multicultural, multiracial society where somehow miraculously there is tolerance for one another. And if you know, if as a country, if as individuals, we can sort of help the rest of the world or help other individuals to just be tolerant of one another, tolerant of indifference, that would be flipping awesome. So, if my being involved with Bullies Keep Out, if in some way I can help that, help people to be tolerant, help people to just sort of think before they say something, to to just try and be good people, be helpful, be kind. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's all about being kind and spreading kindness and love and acceptance and compassion. And I agree, like that's true. I think we've all experienced it in some form, whether it was a kid or as an adult. So, like I said, I think that we could all say, even if it's self-bullying, because I think that's something that's not recognized, that we sometimes bully ourselves, and it's like we can't say, okay, maybe we've never been bullied by our peers, maybe not by a parent or a sibling or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever it may be, but maybe we've done it to ourselves. So you technically have been bullied, you've just been done it by yourself. So yeah, I mean, sometimes people say, oh, I've never been bullied, but I guarantee you, if you ask them if they've ever beat themselves up for a little while on a consistent basis, they would change the way they looked at it. Something interesting I want to bring up that we were just discussing earlier that I think would be great for our listeners to hear is that you recently were with your niece and you were talking to her about bullying. So what was her take on it? Because it's wonderful to hear young people's take on it.
It was so funny. We were sitting and having dinner, me, my niece, and my sister. And my niece Emily, she's 12 years old, and I was saying to Emily, I'm now an advocate for Bullies Keep Out, and I'm going to be doing this PSA, and I'm really excited about it. And she said, "But Uncle Sean, nobody wants to listen to anybody over the age of 20. They're not interested in what somebody over the age of 20 has to say. Definitely not somebody over the age of 40. So I said, okay, fine. Well, then you're going to help me do the PSA. You're going to be in the PSA with me. Then people will listen to you then. It's so wonderful. It's so wonderful for me, as a South African, growing up in a pretty sort of volatile, unstable country, and seeing the young children of today who are not influenced by the past of our country. They're not influenced by everything that as South Africans, we were sort of psychologically brainwashed. And so for me to sort of spend time with my niece and for her to not see color, to not see race, to not see sexuality, to just be open and real and accepting, that's amazing. That's amazing for me to see, and it really gives me hope for the youth. Yes, I mean, in her personal experience, absolutely. She gets bullied. Somebody will maybe say, call her fatty, which is ridiculous. But
it is.
It's everybody in his school, is experiencing some form of bullying. But being involved in the entertainment industry, unfortunately, we are living in a society, which is where you've got this celebrity, as we were talking about earlier, YouTube, celebrity, social media, and we're living and unfortunately, and I don't mind saying this, in a very, very fake, superficial society, where you're reading magazines, you're watching television, you're going to the movies, and you're being bombarded with, this is what sexy is, this is what attractive is. If the guy doesn't have a six-pack, then he's fat and he's ugly. If the girl doesn't look anorexic, then she's fat or she's obese. This is what we are being bombarded with on television, in the media, and this is, and that needs to change. That needs to change. And unfortunately, it only really happens, when one gets older. When the older you get, the more you start realizing that all that superficial nonsense doesn't mean anything. That isn't what real life is.
Oh, it's true.
Real life is about seeing the other person, not their appearance. It's not about that. But when you're a kid, when you're 12 years old, or when you're a teenager, or when you're in your 20s, that's all that it's pretty much about. And that's what society and television and the media and everybody's selling now is it's all about appearance. It's all about appearance.
Right.
But I think the big thing, I've been thinking about this, while I've sort of been preparing to do this PSA. I've been thinking about, what do I really want to sort of say? What is my message?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the message is treat other people the way that you want to be treated.
Right.
Think before you speak, because how would you feel if somebody said that to you?
Or to someone that they know.
Exactly. So I think that's going to be my message. So, is just treat people the way that you would like to be treated. Very deep.
It is. It's surprising how something might seem simple, but it is. It can be very powerful and deep because of the simplicity of it. And it's just like if you make someone smile and you make someone laugh, you can change the whole direction that they're going. It's not about always the big waves. Sometimes it's about the little splashes, and they create the big waves. And that's why I think it's important that it's every little thing that we do in this fight and to make things better and to support, it all adds up into a big, giant, tsunami, and I agree with you. And society has gotten superficial, which is going to bring us into our next interesting topic that's been very popular as of late and controversial, is the Dear Fat People video that everybody is talking about, and fat shaming. And I wanted to discuss it a little bit because I watched the video and I've seen a lot of comments on it, and I've seen a lot of people actually against it and thinking that it was horrific and it really wasn't funny. And, a lot of people feel that, even if you're a comedian, there's always a line that you can cross being a comedian. And I've heard a lot of people feel that way. And then I've also seen people that are behind her and supporting her, in that she's actually making a difference by telling the truth and helping people. But I don't really think the majority of the population is seeing it that way.
The aim of her video is she's aiming for humor, she's aiming for YouTube hits, she's, looking for her 10 seconds of fame. It's disgusting. There's no other word for it. That is not how you tell people that you love them, that you care for them, that you want to help them. You don't do it by insulting them. You don't, recollect experiences which are insulting to people. It's paramount to racism. It's paramount to hate speech. It's unacceptable. But as I said before, we're living in a society where if women aren't anorexic supermodels and men don't have six packs, then society is going to sort of come down on them. The video is disgusting, and it's ridiculous that it's still on.
Yeah, I kind of felt in my take when I saw some responses to it by a woman and it's been on talk shows and a lot of popular YouTube shows, and I really haven't found anybody that has agreed with it, except for some tweet, some people on Twitter, and sometimes people just, you're always going to have somebody that's going to, or fans that are going to support you no matter what you say, when they're diehard fans. But I think, like I said, overall, I think when I watched it, my mouth kind of just dropped, and I felt like, okay, if I was going to be sitting here wanting some motivation, would I go to this video for motivation? No. It's not something that I'm going to go, oh my gosh, let me run to this video because she's insulting and she's cursing and she's putting someone, and she's fat. She's not fat shaming because she was saying that that's made up, which everything comes from somewhere. It's not really made up. But I kind of felt she was contradicting herself, because if you're bullying somebody into doing something, which you're kind of making them feel worse, and you're almost kind of making them want to run and hide, because of how you're describing. You're calling people ugly and fat, and you're making fun of it, and then you're telling stories about how overweight someone was, and then you're trying to say that it's because you love them and that you want them to be healthy. And I kind of felt that some of what was being said was very, contradicting. And I really didn't find, like I said, I really didn't find any of it humorous. And I think in today's world, we do have to be authentic. And we do have to be honest, but I think that there's a right way to approach it respectfully. If you know someone and you want to have a conversation and say, hey, I'm worried about you, let's sit down and talk. And I think that's what she feels that she was trying to do, and I really just didn't see it that way.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't helpful. It was insulting, and she was basically, the only message that I got from her video, and I'm sorry that I watched it, but I mean, the only message that I got from her video was, if a person is fat, it is their own fault. They should stop eating donuts.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely disgusting. A lot of people, are overweight, for serious medical reasons. It's a serious illness. One of my, it sounds kind of funny to say, but sort of one of my biggest fans in the States, Danielle, I mean, she's recently started her own blog. And where Danielle says that she's really, really overweight, and it's really, really affecting her health, and it's threatening her life. And she has decided to make a difference, to make a change in her life. And she's going to sort of take one day at a time, one step at a time, and try and change her life to become a healthy person. To save her own life. And so that blog, that blog of hers, those tweets, that's inspiring, that's helpful, that's courageous, that's flipping beautiful. To watch that YouTube video insulting people, saying that it's their own fault that they are fat or they're obese, that's disgusting.
Yeah, it was kind of, I think a lot of people felt it was horrifically done, and like I said, you can twist it any way you want, and we can, how productive was it? I mean, yes, okay, you got a lot of attention, but is it attention that you really want? I mean, you're basically, you're sending, I got it as just very hateful towards people overweight. And I've heard in some responses, some people saying, I have a disease or I have a disorder and I gained 100 pounds in less than a year because I'm sick. That's not their fault. I don't think people are going out and choosing to be a certain way. And even though and she did make a point to say there might be a small percentage that maybe they don't care, or maybe they choose and they know what they're doing, and that's everybody that makes their own choices. But it's not a huge percentage. A lot of it is, and people need encouragement and motivation, and that's just not really how you motivate people. And and I agreed with it. I felt she was on point. It was actually shared by one of the entertainment shows that are on television. I forgot what tweet I saw it on, but she was so on point when I read it. And I loved it, and I retweeted it, and I even made a comment on it because I was, like, right on point. Because she didn't fail to acknowledge, like, yes, there might be that group of people that might be thinking a certain way, or, but it's not like, it's not a choice. Like, we're not perfect, we all have flaws, there's no such thing as perfection, and that's like saying, I know someone that was sick and they had to go on prednisone and steroids for medical reasons. We all know that when you take those, you're going to gain weight. And you're supposed to tell the doctor, no, I'm sorry. I'm afraid I'm going to gain weight, so I don't want to get better. I'm going to stay unhealthy. I mean, it's things like that you have to consider that happen to people. And I don't think she thought about any of that when she was talking.
I really, as I said to you earlier, it's the aim of the video was, to try and get as many, hits as possible to sort of, raise her sort of profile or popularity. And I'm sure next week she's going to be posing a video about how retarded people need to be institutionalized and killed. Because that'll also be controversial, and it'll probably get us a couple of more 100,000 more hits. So I mean, no, it's just yeah, it's really, really, really sad. Um, the strange thing for me, it would be so interesting to watch a video of her sitting down and somebody who is incredibly obese sitting down in front of her and crying and telling her how depressed, how unhappy they are. Um, that they're in a dark place and they're trying to look, find a light. They're trying to find a way out. And I'm sure in that moment she would break down and actually feel empathy for that person, actually hold them and hug them and actually realize how idiotic and how stupid her video was, because she's not realizing how many people out there she's hurting by that video.
No, and I don't really think she does. And, I've heard a lot of people say, and I've discussed it with friends of mine and, other advocates and supporters. And I said, I pray and hope, and they agreed, and they said the same thing, that somebody like that never really has to be, we all have mountains to climb. And we start from the bottom, and we're all like, we hope that she never has to be in somebody else's shoes, because would she even, are you going to be able to handle it if you're ever on that other side where there's something wrong? And I guarantee you there'll be plenty of people that would say, I still believe in you and I want to be there to help you, unlike what she did.
Yeah.
And that's the even more sad part, is because all the people that maybe she have hurt, those probably would be the people that would be there to give her a hand, to help her or reach out and for support, and because that's who they are as people. And so, we were saying that, we were like, you can't really try to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and walk in them when you have no idea and no clue. And I think a lot of people felt that that's what she was like. She was acting like she really knew what she was talking about, and then trying to make a joke out of it. And it's really not a joke. It's like, it's not something you make a joke out of and then talk about it for however long that video was, and just going on and on and on, and with the cursing, and it was not funny. I found it not one bit humorous at all.
Yeah, it's really sad, but it's, I suppose, it just sort of, shows you, who she really is as a person.
Yeah.
Some people don't have, integrity. Some people, are just looking for some sort of, cheap social media thrill. And, I mean, it's really just sad.
Yeah, it really is. It truly is. And like I said, that's why I wanted to talk about it, because, it's just right now there's so many responses to it. And I think, for what we're doing here, it absolutely, fat shaming, it's bullying, it's hatefulness. So it's something important that we discuss, because there's a lot of it going on. And celebrities getting bullied because they gained 3 pounds and, oh my gosh, they're huge. They've been all over. Who was it recently? Pink has came out and talked out against it. Melissa McCarthy has talked out about it. There's so many celebrities talking out about it, because it's like, love who you are. Beauty is inside. It's not just all about outside. And, don't be, because there's a lot of bullying going on with this recently, and I see it a lot. And in one of the talk shows I was on recently here on Today's Verdict, one of the questions was, he said to me, do you have a lot of celebrities bullied? And I said, every day. I was like, you have no idea. It doesn't matter that they're famous. It doesn't matter who they are or what they're doing. They are watched in every little thing that they do.
Yeah, I suppose as actors, I don't know if we're really bullied by casting directors and producers. Well, sometimes we are bullied. But, I suppose we face rejection every day of our lives in our crazy audition industry. But yeah, no, absolutely. If you're, obviously, if you're an actor, if you're in the industry, you're going to be in the spotlight the whole time. And yeah, it is crazy. It is crazy, But as I said earlier, this is unfortunately, the society that we're living in right now, which is really, sort of superficial, and everything is based on appearance. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, I read a recent sort of crazy statistic, that actors are getting based 97% on their appearance and 3% on their talent.
Yep.
So, yeah, best I start working on my six pack. Um,
It's
but,
true. You're getting watched even more so.
this is, the world that we're living in right now. But, yeah, things change, people change. My mom always said, one of those things, if you can't say something nice, don't say it. If you can't say something helpful, don't say it. And I think I think the world is changing though. I think when I sort of talk to my niece, when I sort of talk to the youth, I think people are slowly sort of starting to actually talk to one another, slowly starting to listen to one another, starting to realize, that, all these fads, celebrities, what are they? It's, yeah, I still don't really know what celebrities are famous for. They're famous for being famous? There's like, it's so crazy. So I think slowly people are going to start moving away from celebrity and all that sort of nonsense and actually start focusing on the things that are real.
Yeah, and like, but when actors and people that people look up to use their good, and there's so many of them out there, and so humble, and they're doing, they're
That's
they're
what,
fighting for causes, yeah, and they're using their voice for something like that, and it's great because, you know, people. Even though it's like we should be hearing it in general and we should all be doing it, it does also make a difference to use your voice if it's powerful, to use it for, to use your power. I mean, we all have powerful voices, but if you have like that one notch up there that you can reach a little more people and just get it out there and spread it more, then I think that's the more we're talking about it and the more that we're all doing that, the more realistic it becomes, and the more lives we're saving, the more people that we're helping. So, that's the good aspect of it. I mean,
absolutely.
that's the great part of the business. I think for most, I think that they're able to do that. So that's always a big plus. One final note I want to ask, and I ask this to everybody, is what's a piece of advice that you would give to somebody, regardless of age, that's going through and struggling with whatever, any form of bullying and any form of hate, regardless of the various types that are out there, but just like a generalization of.
I think, you know, I, for me, growing up as a kid, as I said to you earlier, I'm really old now, but, but
You're
when I
gonna
was
make me feel old by saying you're old.
when I was growing up as a kid, we never actually had computers. I know that sounds ridiculous, but we didn't have computers. We still had old typewriters, and you actually went to the library and read books.
I did
And
that when I was younger.
yeah, and so when I was a teenager, when I was sort of struggling with certain things and trying to figure out who the heck I was, um, I felt completely alone in the world. I felt, but who am I? What am I? This that I'm feeling or this that I'm thinking, this, I'm alone. And I think, today, people we shouldn't have that excuse. There is the internet, there is Google, there is the internet. Yeah, sure, there's a lot of, nonsense out there, a lot of garbage out there. But I think my message would be is you're not alone. Just know that you're not alone, that there is somebody who will listen. And if it's not the school teacher or the guidance teacher or or your priest or your parent or your sister or your brother, somebody out there will listen to you. Somebody out there does care about you and does want to talk to you and will listen to you. So just knowing that you're not alone, I think that's the most important thing.
It
That
is.
would be my message.
That's a great message because it's true. We actually, today is World Suicide Prevention Day, and I posted on Twitter, we had made last year with some of our celebrity advocates, I put together a PSA for it, and the hashtag is I am not alone. And it's
Yeah.
basically just saying, I'm not alone, you're not alone, nobody's alone, and there's always somebody to reach out to, and even strangers reaching out to strangers. So I think that's a great sentiment, and it's very true. There's always somebody that we can turn to. So I appreciate those thoughts. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion today, and thank you,
I'll
Sean.
rant about these crazy YouTubers.
Well, you know what? It was an important topic, and you know what? I think a lot of people are going to find it interesting. I think everybody likes to hear the different responses. So
Cool.
I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's late by you, and I'm keeping you up, so I appreciate you taking the time today. I really do.
Cool. Thanks so much, man. And I'll get that PSA out to you soon.
Yes, I look forward to that as well. Okay, guys, enjoy and be kind and love big.